Hello, everyone. I'm not sure if I can be heard or not. Let me just check the chat. First time using this platform. Okay, I see comments in the chat. Folks, do let me know. All good? Okay, awesome. Let's just wait a few minutes to see if we can get more people joining. Oh, we actually already have more than 100 people. Cool. Wally from our team. Hey, folks. Andre. Hey, guys. Would be nice to know where folks are connecting from. I'm in Portugal, Porto, city up north. Argentina. Love it. Que bueno. Amazing. All right, folks. Oh, there's folks from Braga. Nice. I'm actually in Braga right now. I said Porto, but I'm like to be more precise, I'm in Braga in Portugal. Really cool. All right, let's get this started. I believe we are recording, so if you want to send this later to anyone, I believe we're going to make this link available to anyone. And so today we're going to talk about a very exciting launch we did last week, the Amplemarket MCP. We're going to show you how you can get started with it, what the MCP actually is, some use cases you can try, and some practical tips on how to make the most out of it. I am João from the product market team here at Amplemarket. And by the end of the session, we'll also have like a small QA session so that you can ask any questions you have. So just a quick overview of what an MCP is. You can think about an MCP as kind of a system, like an integration that allows you to interact, in this case, with Amplemarket via like any sort of like AI tool or AI agent you use. Like the most prominent ones would be Claude, ChatGPT, but if you work with any other MCP compatible tool, things like Notion, there's other products like you can try that out, MC compatible, like even like coding tools like Cursor and so on and so forth. And this is what like the MCP is, right? So basically allow you to interact with Amplemarket without having to log in on Amplemarket's dashboard, be able to interact it via your ChatGPT or Claude accounts in your laptop, on the go, whatever you want. And so this first version of our MCP, this first version is constantly evolving, and like we really want your feedback here on how it should evolve further. But the first version is already quite complete. So we have like a bunch of features that we already support. And so you can think about using the MCP to run searches on Amplemarket, to run enrichment flows, to create lead lists, or to check your existing lead lists. Another really cool feature of the MCP is like the CRM integration capabilities. So if you do have your CRM integrated with Amplemarket, that means that through the MCP, you can actually get context on your existing accounts, like past interactions, what happened with these accounts, like any relationship with like what's our relationship with the context and this account. So there's a lot of like things that you can pull via the MCP about your CRM data. And also there's like on the last point here, 5 analytics, there's also like a bunch of cool analytics use cases that you can try. So like, of course, in Amplemarket, you have a whole like analytics module, but via the MCP, you can make like very specific and ad hoc questions about your team's performance, like your sequence performance, like who's the personas that are resonating the most, like bounce rates, the deliverability, like checks, and so on and so forth. So for the sake of this webinar, I'm actually going to run through a few use cases on how you can try the MCP. For the sake of the webinar, I am going to use Claude as like the AI agent to test the MCP. And so the first thing that I'm going to do, and by the way, like you can always like check our knowledge base for how to do this. So we have a whole guide that explains how to set up the MCP for Claude, but also for the different providers that we work with. And so I'm going to go to Claude section here. But in Claude, the only thing that you have to do is to go to Customize. And in Customize, you will have the connectors section where you'll see like other connectors that you have set up. And to set up the Amplemarket connector, you will want to go to Custom Connector. And then you just have to type Amplemarket as the name, copy the link of our MCP URL. Just going to paste it here. And this should already show you the Amplemarket MCP here. Then just make sure that you're logged in on Amplemarket. So I'm here logged in on my Amplemarket account. And what you will want to do is to connect to the Amplemarket MCP. So I'm just going to hit connect here. You're going to see a screen where you're going to be requested access to Amplemarket. You're going to approve that request. And once you do that, you're good to go. So once I get back to Claude, I should see here that, okay, now I have this new Amplemarket connector alongside my other connectors. You can see the tools that the MCP has access to, a bunch of other like permissions. But after this, we should be good to go. So let's run a couple of use cases together. I have like a bunch of examples here, like we can try more at the end. And the first one that I have here, it's actually one that I find really exciting because it really shows how you can on one side leverage Amplemarket's native capabilities, right? Like enrichment, creation of lists with some of the capabilities that these agents are specialized in. And so like most of you have probably run like web searches on ChatGPT or in Claude at any point. And the cool thing is that you can now, let me just zoom in a little bit, you can now put together these searches that you run with the Amplemarket MCP and do very cool things together. So this use case that I'm showing here, it's one where I'm asking I'm asking Claude to check the 5 latest guests on like a podcast that I usually track and where usually there are folks talking about sales topics. I'm asking it to extract, and let me actually start running this in the meantime. I'm asking it to extract like each guest, like an insight for each guest, and also provide like an icebreaker or like a short LinkedIn connection message. And I'm asking it to bring this information into Amplemarket to a list so that I can then reuse it later. Let's say that I want to create a sequence on top of that. I want to like approach these folks. And so here, of course, Claude is going through the podcast episodes. It's trying to find like the latest guests. And once it's like going through a bunch of searches, and once it finishes doing so, like get all the guests, get all the contacts, now it has all the rich details. Now it's going to look to Amplemarket tools to create the lead list on my behalf. And so here it searched for the tools, it found the Amplemarket tool, and now it's asking me for permission to actually create the list for me. In this case, I'm going to give it permission, and it should create the list now. I can even see the exact request, right, that Claude is doing. So it's using the LinkedIn URL of the guests. It's including the podcast episode. It's including like the role, the go-to-market insight that I asked it about, the icebreaker, and then the LinkedIn message if I want to use it later. And it's doing this for all of the leads that it scraped. And here I'm just like using a simple podcast episode for this demo, but you can think of this like running for multiple podcasts. You can think about asking Claude to run this on the recurring basis and constantly update the list that you created. So now in theory, I have the list in Amplemarket, and let's see if it is here or not. It is. So the list, go to market now again, was the podcast that we scraped, the last 5 guests. The list is now here. It's still loading, but let me open it to see if, okay, Amplemarket is still processing the data, but once it finishes, we will have like a full list in Amplemarket where we'll have like personalized data for each lead about the extraction that I just made. While we wait a little bit, I'm going to head over to more use cases, and then we can come back to this and go back to list. All right. So this was a bit of a more complex use case that showed the power of coupling Amplemarket's capabilities with other native capabilities of these AI chat tools. But you can think about using the MCP for rather simple searches from the Amplemarket database, where you could be like perfectly be doing this from like ChatGPT for like a quick search, but you could also be doing this on the go, like if you're on mobile and want to make a quick search using Amplemarket's capabilities. All right, perfect. So here in this case, we have the MCP searching people in our database. You can see that it's using our filters and then returning a list of leads. In this case here, I asked for like a list of tech companies in Europe that have doubled their head count recently and have between 200 and 1,000 employees. And it came up with a pretty cool list of companies in that ballpark. Let me just quickly check the comments to see if there's anything here. All right. You can all see my screen well, I assume, right? If I can get some confirmation on the chat, just real quick. Looks good. Okay, cool. Thanks, folks. So this was another simple use case. Let's go back to our list to see if it's finished. Let me refresh Amplemarket. Still loading, so come back to here later a little bit. All right, let's test more use cases. Still in the searches realm, so I made a company search, right? Like find me tech companies in Europe that have doubled their head count recently and have between 200 and 1,000 employees. But we could also like do another simple search, like find me VPs of sales at the Series B company, at Series B plus companies in the US who have been in their role for less than 6 months. Again, all searches that are leveraging the Amplemarket database, and I can easily run through the MCP if I have the Amplemarket MCP connected. So again, making a search, thinking about other ways in which the VP title can be used, and pretty quickly I have here back a couple of results. It's also in this case like enriching each of the leads. So yeah, really interesting one. All right, let's go back and see if our list finished updating. It's still loading. Interesting. Let me go back here. I'll ask it to create another one. This list is still time to go. Can you create a new one? Use V2. All right. Because I really want to show you like the dynamic fields, the extra fields being used from the research that that Claude did. All right, it's going to create another one. Cool. All right, so we started with web search plus list creation. We went into database searches. Another really cool use case that I have here, it's call prep. So let's say that you're going to talk with a specific contact and you want, like at a glance, real quick, get some call prep, like some more information on the person that you're going to talk with. Let me use this prompt as an example here. So in this case, I'm going to have like a call with the head of sales in 30 minutes. I want Amplemarket to research and enrich this person and give me back like more on his background, 3 personalized talking points, and a few discovery questions I can ask. Let's have Claude run this. And in the meantime, let me see. Okay, we have a new list. Let's see if this one loads a bit faster. Also still loading. Because the thing that I wanted to show, this is an example of like, this was actually another use case that I tried with the MCP. So I'm going to Hacker News, which is like a website where you can track new products launching. And then I asked the Amplemarket MCP to track new product launches and extract the founders of these companies, the companies that are launching. And alongside the founders, I asked it to create a list with these founders and also like a small description of what they're launching. And so like the MCP helped me create a very personalized list with a lead level description of what each of these person launched in this case. And that's the same thing I wanted to do for this use case, but we're experiencing some slowness here. Anyway, back to the call prep use case. This one is really nice because like via Amplemarket database, now I quickly have at a glance here, a quick overview of like who the head of sales at Linear, in this case, the person I'm going to talk with, is, past experience, like more information on the company as well, like how many employees they have, how many like capital they've raised, like there's the latest round, a couple of talking points I can use, a couple of discovery questions I can get. So it's really nice way to couple again, like Claude's capabilities with Amplemarket's database and our enriched information. So, and in this case, like for the fourth use case, so in this one here, we were kind of doing like a more person level enrichment, right? So getting more context on these contacts. But you can also think about using the MCP to do like research on a specific company, right? Let's say that I'm selling like an engineering observability platform, and I want to target a company called Pylon. And so via Amplemarket, I want the MCP to check what their tech stack is, help me map their engineering leadership department so that I can like try to assess who the right like tooling decision makers are and suggest like who I should target. And so in this case here, so like the MCP already did a couple of cool things. So it enriched the company, found the domain, enriched the company, got a bunch of information on Pylon, their industry, like where they're based, like an overview of the company, funding, etc. Like a lot of information, tech stack, a lot of information. It's also searching, as you can see here, for key people in like key departments, right? So it's doing all of this for me, searching people, enriching the company. It found like one interesting candidate person, and it's also like enriching it to get more context. And now it's giving me like a full account brief with more information. I actually had like so I'm using Sonnet here, and for the more powerful use cases, I would recommend you using like more powerful models like Opus 4.6. But if I were to be using for Opus 4.6, Claude tends to build these really cool visualizations of the information that it gets from Amplemarket, the information it reads from Amplemarket. And so here I have the same prompt that I had before, but you can see in the response that it's like giving me a really like neat overview of the company, the tech stack that they use. Again, all of this is based on Amplemarket information that the MCP got from using the tools. Mapping the engineering leadership department. So it's like literally making an org chart for me, trying to help me figure out who owns tooling decisions, suggesting approach. And so like here we're using like Amplemarket data alongside like Claude and these agents. Like, and this can be like a really cool thought partner when you're like targeting specific accounts and trying to formalize different angles in which you can approach them. So I thought this was a really cool one. Again, let's go back to our lists and see if they're ready. Apparently they are. They aren't. Demogods don't seem to be with me today. I'm curious why they're still processing. Anyway, I'll try to have a look at that later. All right. So going to the last batch of use cases, analytics use case. So this one is really cool because, of course, in Amplemarket, you have access to our full analytics module, right? Where you can like have very cool visualizations and like you can slice data any way we want. You can like check overview data. You can like track performance of specific sequences, do a copilot, emails, LinkedIn, so on and so forth. But the cool thing about having like the analytics on the MCP is you can ask very precise questions that also give you like very personalized visualizations based on the Amplemarket underlying data from your account. And so we can start with very basic questions. So I'm going again to Claude here. And in this case, let's actually try to use Opus. So like a bigger query that will ask for Amplemarket data. So I'm going to ask, let me just pick up one thing. So the first thing that I'm going to ask is to go to Amplemarket and check all of our sequences from the BDR team, which is like one of our sales teams, with 20 plus leads, so that we have some so that it's more representative, the analysis. And I'm going to ask Claude to tell me which ones have been performing best this quarter. Since this is a demo, I'm just going to ask it to anonymize the data so that the data that you're going to see, it's like all of it is anonymized. But let's run this query and let's see what Claude comes out of it. And in the meantime, I'll check the list. Still nothing. All good. Okay, so here again, MCP is looking for the available tools. It's made the question to our Ask Analytics tool. So like, show me all sequences from the BDR team this quarter that have 20 or more leads. For each sequence, do this, this, and that. So the our analytics tool, like since this is a more heavy question, I'm literally asking it to go through all of the sequences from the past quarter. And since it's like a pretty heavy question, Claude here is being smart enough to wait for the request a little bit before it like builds anything on top of it. And so let's just wait here a little bit. Yeah, it's waiting like 35 seconds. So let's wait a little bit. But the really cool thing, like we'll see what Claude ends up coming up with. But the thing I really like about using the analytics use case on Claude is that Claude will then build these very personalized visualizations on top of your Amplemarket data. And so here, like I have a generic like question that I also ask about like our team performance, and it's like giving me rep level performance. So how many leads the reps are enrolling in the last 30 days, how many like the leaderboard in terms of meetings booked, what are the top sequences, like best interested rep by rep, all of that. So and you can ask Claude to make these very like cool charts, and you can use like for this one ad hoc analysis. So I thought this was really cool. In any case, okay, like here it is. So that's the query I made earlier, as you saw, and Claude is already on it, like building a personalized dashboard with data from our sequences. It's then like also explaining like some of the insights that it found from the analysis that it made, but it's already building like a dashboard here that we can use for our analysis. So let's continue with more analytics questions. So this one was a very generic one from like best performing sequences, but we can also ask for like simpler things like, okay, now tell me more about who are the top performing rep this month from our SDR team. Exactly. Again, I'm building on top of the previous analysis, right? So like I'm just now I want to know like who are our top performing reps. And again, the Amplemarket analytics tool is making a question to our analytics, and like it's the same data that you would find in analytics, right? So like I could go to analytics and manually do these queries for me, like you would find the same thing. But here in this case, we're using the MCP to get this. Like maybe we're on mobile, maybe we want like just like a very specific and ad hoc question to an analysis that we're running, and this is just some of the use cases that we can try. Again, here the MCP is waiting a little bit for the response because like sometimes these queries can be quite heavy, and so like but the MCP is smart enough to like understand when it needs to think a little bit and understand the questions. So here we have it waiting a little bit, and in the meantime we can try more questions. So this one is the one that I really like. So in Amplemarket, there's actually sometimes there's in this case we actually have the data in the dashboard, but there's some use cases which again here that we have. So we have here 8 reps, the number of leads, the emails they sent, how many interested leads we have, and then the reply rate, and it's going to break down by rep and so on and so forth. It's a really cool one. Let's just wait a little bit more to see exactly. So it's building like a very custom visualization on top of our data. It's really something that I found really fascinating. But let's go to more use cases. As I was saying, so there's use cases where Amplemarket does have the data, but it's maybe not very well exposed on the analytics, right? On our analytics model. But since we have that data, you can actually like ask Amplemarket to try to bring some insights for you. And so in this one here, I'm going to ask it to, okay, look at Amplemarket's SDR team, and based on their calls data from the past month, tell me what are the best times to make calls. And here, and again, let me just add the disclaimer to not show any internal data, but here we're going to ask our analytics tool to look at like actually the times that we make calls, and then our interested rates or our connection rates, and try to give me, for instance, as a manager, more details on what would be like the best times for our team to calls based on past trends. And so like here, okay, so we have it ask analytics for this question. Again, it's trying to like making a lot of queries to analytics to get the results. Let's see what comes out of it. Okay, got the data. And again, it's building a clean, nice visual on top of this. I'll spare you like the details. You don't need to wait. I already have this one here. It's really nice. So best time to call, like I made the same query earlier. And so like, okay, this is the peak hour, but it's also like when we have the most connection rate, like what our sweet spot, and you can get like these very personalized reports using Claude. Another one that I really like is also like if you're using Duo Copilot on Amplemarket, if you're familiar with it, you can ask it to do like a whole overview of your setup. Like what are our best performing sequences? Sorry, what are our best performing Duo signals? Which signal types have the best interested rate? Which ones are reps dismissing the most? And so you can get like a full report. Again, this is the same data that you can get on the analytics, but here, if you want to be more specific and have like a more tailored report on an ad hoc basis, you can ask it to do so. Like on the last 30 days, we apparently got like a lot of leads generated. We have like a pretty good interested rate, but we can have a breakdown of signals here. We clearly have like Slack community messages as one of our best performing sequences, and then closed loss reactivation. But there's some signals that we probably should review. They have a very high dismiss rate, so we should look into what are the reasons there. And then here it's just a simple query, but I could also like ask the MCP, okay, look at the most common dismiss reasons and try to tell me why my reps are dismissing those leads. Is there any like common reasons, and so on and so forth. We're already like we're already almost on time, so I want to make sure we leave some time for questions as well. We ran through a lot of use cases. Let's just see if we got our list created or not. No, we don't. Oh, wait. No, we don't have a list. We'll need to have a look at this, but you got the gist, right? So we're going to create a very personalized list with like what those podcast attendees talked about, insights, a personalized LinkedIn message, all in an Amplemarket list table, ready for us to use as personalization in sequences or whatever we want. The list is not collaborating with me, so sorry about that. But other than that, I hope you found this useful. Now, time for questions. Let me put like one of these cool graphs here. All right. Questions. There's questions tab here. Oh, okay, this is a very common question. Let me try to rank by, I'll then rank by upvotes, but for now I'm going for that. Like Federico here, a really interesting question. So can the LLM generate a sequence using the MCP? So sequences is a capability that the MCP still doesn't have today, though like we're seeing that, we're hearing that a lot from you guys. And so it's something that we'll be exploring over the next few days and weeks for sure. Like it's just one that it sounds trivial at a glance, but can be a bit more tricky because if you're familiar with like the sequence creation flow in any tool, there's a lot of like validations that you need to make. There's a lot of like settings and small details. But I totally understand like how sometimes you have all of these contexts in these ChatGPT threads or Claude threads, and then you want to use that like to quickly get a sequence draft that you can start setting up from Amplemarket. A note though, so in Amplemarket, you can actually create sequences using our AI assisted flow. So you can just describe what you want an Amplemarket will generate a sequence for you. But I totally get as well like how useful this could be on the MCP. And so that's something that we'll explore. Now let me rank the questions via votes. Can the Claude queries actually? LinkedIn for attendees. So as long as the data on LinkedIn that you're querying is available, like without a login, because like LinkedIn will we'll try to like hide behind the login, right? And so if the list that you're trying, like the rule of thumb is like you can use Claude to get to scrape any list you want, as long as that list is accessible without like having like without you having to log in or try to go through some sort of like login flow. What about preparing for a cold call? Can we use the MCP to prepare an SDR with talking points just to get a foot on the door? Exactly. So that was one of the use cases that, if you remember, we ran. So we like there was one use case here where like I was going to talk with Linear's head of sales, and I asked it like for a quick brief before the call, and like and Claude generated like based on Amplemarket enrich data, like a quick card on some information about this person. Again, the sequences question. So like it's something that we know a lot of you want, and like we it's something that we'll explore. Can we make a workflow that is triggered by lists? So you can create a list via ChatGPT. So I demo all of this. I'm not sure if I have my ChatGPT account here. I do. But like I demoed these using like our Claude accounts, but you can totally use this on ChatGPT too. So you can go here, like tag Amplemarket, find me VPs of sales in San Francisco, right? So I can totally use the MCP from ChatGPT as well. The integration with workflows, you should manage it from Amplemarket. Can I save a search in Amplemarket that started in Claude? A search, not necessarily. You can run a search like I'm doing here from the MCP. So like I'm asking the MCP to find me VPs of sales in San Francisco, and it's coming back with me with this list, like LinkedIn. I can check this. I can then, and then what you can do is to, from the MCP, add to a list. So I could add to a list from here. Let's actually try and see if the lead list from this one works. Add this to a new lead list on Amplemarket. We're right on time, but let me go through one more question. Can we leverage the MCP to enhance tool capabilities? So that was one of the use cases I also showed. I also think it's great, the list. So asking the MCP to look at your like duo analytics and try to give you like insights on what's working, what's not working, like that's one. To prioritize the leads in your feed, that's an interesting request. That's not the first time that I personally see it. It's not a capability that we have on the MCP today, but definitely something we could consider. So yeah, we're right on time. I'm not sure, Arjun. I'm not sure if you're here. If you wanna jump on a call and say anything else, or if we should wrap. But yeah, hope you all found the MCP useful. Again, we're starting with this set of use cases, but we're constantly evolving these sequence capabilities. More stuff will come. We want to hear how you use it. Like literally, the sky's the limit here. You're only limited by your own creativity. So yeah, let us know, and thanks for joining us.
And just one thing on the questions panel, like we'll also like go through your questions, and I'll reach out personally after the event if that
Yeah,
makes sense.
awesome. Yeah, let's go through a few
We'll
more.
answer all your questions. Awesome.
So Arjun, you said we could still run through a few more questions. That's what you said.
I mean, if you want to, or
Oh yeah,
we can
So
also
I'm
just.
done. Yeah. Let's go. Let me go through the list of questions again. Oh, can Claude tap into call transcripts? So not yet. This is something that we're exploring, especially since we've recently. I'm not sure if you guys saw launched AI insights for your transcripts. So we're literally summarizing your call transcripts and give you like actionable insights about them that you can save as notes. And so on and so forth. So that's something that's really interesting that we want to look at, especially that when coupled with these flows where you're asking the MCP for like the best performing channels and so on and so forth. And then you might want to know like, well, okay, what insights are we getting from our con calls? What pitches are working and that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's definitely something interesting. So if we can create personas with AI assistants, no, we cannot yet, though that's an interesting request. From Amplemarket, you can run searches using natural language, right? So I can search for RevOps professionals in tech companies. I can like just type this search and make the search, and this will make the search for me. We're actually exploring bringing a similar functionality to the persona creation flow in Amplemarket. So interesting question. Let me see if we have a few more. Cole, on how will it ask clarifying questions or execute once prompted? Curious how it handles language differences. Example, how many prospects did rep one add this week? Yeah, so the MCP should be smart enough to understand their questions, and if it's not, it will totally get back to you to ask for clarification. That's totally how it works. So someone was asking for the links on how to connect. Again, all of these. So we have a knowledge base article that explains first the different capabilities that the MCP has. So if you're curious about use cases, all of those things. We're actually speaking about use cases. So our marketing team will let you know when this is ready, but we're going to publish a full list of skills for how to use our MCP. And think about skills as like prompt templates that you can use for specific use cases. And like we have this whole list of skills like that we're going to make available and that you can get started from. But in the meantime, our knowledge base will already like show you the different tools that are available for the MCP. And more than that, it will show you setup instructions. So how to set up on ChatGPT, how to set up on Cloud Desktop and Web, and like other providers. Let's see if let's go through more questions. We'll be sharing the recording. I think Arjun already said that on the chat, but yes, we'll send the recording after the event. Yeah. If there's a way to link the MCP to Claude and Slack, yes, you can actually do like, so you can, as you can see here on my connectors, you can connect both the Amplemarket MCP to get data from Amplemarket, example analytics, and then Slack's MCP. And so you could totally then send these reports to Slack from Claude. That's always something that you can do. Can we automate this? So questions on automation. Yes, so that's a very interesting, I'm not sure. Okay, let's see if this list ended up getting created. Okay, we finally have our lists. Awesome. Not sure if we still have all of the folks here, but we do have our lists. And so like here again, these are like the attendees. There's one that it's excluded, I'm not sure why, but I'm going to put it here as well. So here we have all of the attendees, okay, of the podcast. And if we go to the columns that we just created, we'll see that we have, okay, icebreaker, go-to-market insight, podcast episode, LinkedIn message, which means that for each of these person, we now have the icebreaker if we want to use it, like a personalized for each of them, the go-to-market insight that they talk about on the podcast and that I asked Claude to extract the episode if we want to mention it in our sequences, and a personalized LinkedIn message if I want to use it on the sequence. So this is really cool because you can then like create sequences that leverages these dynamic fields, right? And you can have like very personalized sequences based out of this. So yeah. Very cool. On the question of like making things recurring. So on ChatGPT, and I think this is coming to Claude too. So let's say that here I asked Amplemarket to find me VPs of sales in San Francisco, but I could pretty much have done this like search here or like find me the latest guests on this podcast and extract and add them to a list. And then at least on ChatGPT, you can do this, which is like, okay, cool. Create a recurring task for me to run these every month. And ChatGPT will also create a recurring task for this. And so you can update the list dynamically through our MCP and ChatGPT or Claude. Yeah, so here, like this, search for VPs of sales in San Francisco and then them to an Amplemarket list. Again, it's a very basic one, but you could ask instead to like search for new companies launching on Hacker News or search for podcast attendees and do all of the things I asked you to do and then add them to a list. And then you can automate the reading that list from Amplemarket. All right, so let me go through a few other questions. Okay, I went to most of these. Yeah, I think I went through most of them. Does it make difference using Sonnet versus Opus versus IQ? So this is a question on the different models on Claude. Like Sonnet, as per Claude's, as per Anthropic's description here, right? So this is their least capable model, but fastest. This is like the hybrid model that they have, most efficient for like everyday tasks, and then this is the most capable model. For most, like you can go back to the recording, but most of the queries I ran here, I actually ran them on Sonnet. And for the more, so the ones on analytics, like the ones that are a bit more expensive or require a little more back and forth and more eagerness from the model to like to go deeper and do more research, like to do more work, Opus will be a better candidate. But you can try like with smaller models and then upgrade them as needed. Call in terms of the data sources. So the MCP uses the same data sources that Amplemarket uses. So we crawl from a lot of different sources to get funding data, to get their founders. So it's coming from the same data that you can already get in Amplemarket, right? So like when you use the search on Amplemarket, when you open a company on Amplemarket or a specific person, there's a lot of information there. The same information that the MCP has is the same information that you have within Amplemarket. Does this work for Cloud Desktop app or Chrome extension? Yes, exactly. So it will work on any cloud surfaces that you can connect the MCP to. Cloud Desktop is one of them, of Code, Cloud Cowork, all of those surfaces. Arjun, I'm not sure if we have a lot more questions. Do let me know also in the chat, folks, if there's anything interesting you'd like to see me covering, or if we're good.
I think that's it with the questions.
Yeah. Thank you, Lucy.
I think we just had one. How does it work in campaigns? Do you want to take it up and then close it up?
Nicholas, if by campaigns you mean creating sequences from the MCP? No, can you clarify your question? Okay, that's what I said earlier. So it's definitely something that we're exploring. So currently, you cannot create sequences from the MCP, though you can actually. So Amplemarket. So within Amplemarket, there's a native capability in Amplemarket. You can create sequences with AI by prompting our AI assisted sequence creation flow, like you just described, the reasons why you're reaching out, who you want to target, like your preferred sequence structure, and Amplemarket will generate a draft sequence for you. Though I totally understand how useful it will also be to create a draft sequence from the MCP. Thing is that the sequence creation flow, it's a flow that has a lot of validations, that has a lot of different settings. So before we go into that, we want to make sure that the experience of creating a draft sequence from MCP is looks correct and is a good one. And so that's something that we're still exploring how to do, but definitely in our plans. We don't have a precise idea yet, so we're still studying the problem, and but we'll keep it posted. There's inclusively, I think, so I'm not sure if you guys know, but there's so if you go to feedback at .amplemarket.com, we have our public board of feedback, and I think there's one for the sequence creating sequences via the MCP. I'm pretty sure there's one already, and you can upvote it there and track status on it. Apparently there's not. So yeah, we're going to create one, and you'll be able to track it there. I'm going to send a link, by the way.
Awesome.
You're welcome.
So let's close it here, Pena, if that works.
Oh, you need to close the event? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, folks.
Awesome.
Thanks for attending.
Thank you, guys.
And yeah, any questions, let us know. Bye-bye.